God's chosen ones. Beloved chosen one, listen. Heaven has paused everything around you so this message could reach you at this exact moment. This is not some algorithmic accident. This is not coincidence. This is divine orchestration. You have been marked by the hand of heaven, marked before your first breath, marked before your first heartbreak. You were never anonymous in the spirit realm. While others competed for attention, heaven already had your name inscribed in the book. Angels know you not because of a platform or a title, but because of the oil on your life. You were not a backup plan in God's agenda. You were always plan A. You were known before you were named. That's why your path has never looked like anyone else's. You've never fit in, never blended comfortably, never kit belonged. That's because you were not created to fit. You were created to shake the atmosphere. You were carved, not molded, shaped, not spoon-fed, built in private so that glory could be revealed in public. Every door that didn't open for you, that was God's hand, not rejection, preservation. Every person that walked away, that was divine disconnection, not abandonnement, protection. And every season where nothing made sense, that was preparation, not delay, alignment. You've been through storms that should have swallowed you, nights that crushed your lungs with invisible weight, days when the silence was louder than your prayers. But you're still here, not because you're lucky, but because you're marked. Hell doesn't attack the lukewarm. It launches war against the ones who carry fire. That's why the warfare never matched your circumstance. It always felt like too much, too often, too soon. Because the enemy saw something in you that you hadn't even seen in yourself yet. You don't just walk with favor. You carry something that threatens darkness. You carry the kind of light that can't be imitated. The kind of presence that shakes up atmosphere before you say a word. Your very being is a threat. You are dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Not because of what you own, but because of what you survived. Chosen one, you are heaven's strategy in the earth. You are God's rebellion against the enemy's blueprint. You were chosen to disrupt cycles, rewrite bloodlines, and carry the fire of a generation asleep at the wheel. You were never made to be comfortable in the crowd. You were crafted to carry weight. That's why the crowd never loved you. That's why people misunderstood your intensity, your passion, your tears, your silence. They called you too much, too sensitive, too deep. But the truth is, you're too anointed to be watered down. There's oil on you that demands separation. God didn't call you to be accepted. He called you to be effective. Even your pain was prophetic. Every betrayal, every breakdown, every closed door, it was heaven collecting sacrifice for the altar of your purpose. You didn't just lose things. You offered them unknowingly as holy evidence of your calling. And now, the seal has been broken. The book, the one sealed for generations, has been opened, and your name is echoing through the courts of heaven. This is not just another spiritual moment. This is your divine activation. You are being called forward. You are stepping into visibility. You are being announced by heaven. No more hiding. No more questioning. No more waiting for permission. There is glory about to rise from your life that you cannot shrink away from anymore. It's time to own the light inside of you. You were not made to dim it for comfort. You were made to radiate for glory. So hear this with your whole spirit if this word has found you. It is because you are one of them. One of the marked ones. One of the chosen. One of the called out. This is your moment of alignment. If your heart is burning right now, If something deep within you feels like heaven just called your name, then don't let this word pass through your hands without responding. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, because this is only the beginning. Like and share this message if your spirit says yes. Let someone else stumble upon what their soul has been praying for. You never know who is on the verge of their breakthrough. And type in the comments, "I am marked." Say it with fire. Let it be your declaration, your confirmation, your stamp of agreement with what God is unfolding. This is not emotion. This is encounter. This is not hype. This is heaven. You were never overlooked. You were hidden for now, for this, for such a time as this. And now, the seal is no longer closed. The seal has broken. Heaven's silence has ended. There are moments in history when a sound from the spirit realm tears through the fabric of time. This is one of those moments. The book, once sealed with mystery and divine restraint, has now been opened. The breaking of that seal is not poetry, it is prophecy. Not just a heavenly event, but a personal call. Your call. You felt the shift, even if you couldn't describe it. The discontent, the urgency, the divine discomfort. Things you used to tolerate suddenly feel too small. Spaces that once comforted you now suffocate your spirit. That's not confusion, it's divine confrontation. Your soul is responding to the open scroll. You are not who you were. The old has expired. The whisper you tried to ignore has now become a trumpet in your chest. Heaven is summoning you to higher ground. You can feel it every time you try to return to the past and find no rest there. The old wineskin has torn, the oil has shifted. It is written in Revelation 4. After this I looked, and there before me was a door standing open in heaven. And the voice I had first heard speaking to me like a trumpet said, "Come up here, and I will show you what must take place after this." Although the voice of God is calling you higher, not just in position, but in perception. This is not a promotion for your name. This is an assignment for your soul. You're not just being elevated, you're being entrusted. The seal has broken, and now responsibility is falling like fire into the hands of the faithful. You thought God had forgotten you in the quiet. You thought maybe he skipped over your name. But what you called silence was preparation. You weren't being ignored, you were being insulated. What felt like delay was actually heaven's timing guarding your scroll until the appointed time. Now the time has come. The heavens have spoken. The scroll is unsealed, and your name echoes in eternity. As the prophet Daniel once recorded, "But you, Daniel, roll up and seal the words of the scroll until the time of the end. Many will go here and there to increase knowledge." Daniel 12. See, that time of sealing is over. The scroll is open. Knowledge is increasing. The veil is thinning. The call is intensifying. You're not just being activated, you're being unveiled. You may have expected this season to look like reward or recognition, but often, when heaven begins to move, it looks like breaking. The seal breaks. And so do the parts of us that can no longer walk into where God is leading. That breaking you've been feeling, that wasn't punishment, it was prophecy. Something had to tear, so something eternal could pour in. You've lost people, lost opportunities, lost versions of yourself you thought you needed. But everything that fell away cleared space for this scroll. You were never meant to carry old weight into a new era. You've been emptied to be filled with fire. This is not about hype. This is about holy assignment. You're not waking up just to your potential. You're waking up to heaven's timeline for your life. The enemy wanted you stuck in cycles, but the seal broke the cycle. What heaven has unsealed cannot be reversed. This is your Genesis moment, a holy beginning disguised in the ashes of endings. And now that the book is open, your spirit is being summoned forward. There is no going back after this. You've crossed a spiritual threshold. You've touched a line that divides the waiting from the walking, the wondering from the knowing, and it will cost you. It will cost your comfort. It will cost your smallness. It will cost your silence. But the weight of this scroll was never meant for the uncommitted. That's why God let you be broken first. He had to wean you off of applause so you'd live from obedience. He had to strip away every idol so his voice would be enough. He had to prepare you to carry words that would shake the gates of hell. The time for wondering if you're ready is over. The seal is broken. The scroll is yours. And heaven is waiting to see what you'll do with it. Jesus once declared in Luke 12:48, "To whom much is given, much will be required." And now, chosen one, much has been given. You've been handed revelation not just to marvel at it, but to move with it. This is not about information. This is about transformation. And that transformation begins when you accept the scroll and walk it out. Heaven has already said yes. Now it's your turn to respond. You were hidden for a reason. Before the spotlight. Before the platform. Before the prophecies started aligning, there was silence. Not emptiness, but divine concealment. You've spent years wondering why you were always the one left behind. Why doors didn't open. Why connections never stuck. But chosen one. It was never rejection. It was protection. God was hiding you because your oil was too rare to be exposed prematurely. You weren't being overlooked. You were being preserved. Preserved from people who would have diluted your purity. Preserved from systems that would have commodified your anointing. Preserved from partnerships that would have prostituted your calling. There are some assignments so holy, they must be hidden until the atmosphere is ready. You carry a scroll that has been sealed for this specific hour, not earlier, not later. Now, that's why you've always felt out of sync with the world, because your timing is synced with heaven. Remember the strange tension that's followed you for years. That low ache of not belonging, even in rooms where everyone welcomed you. That was the Spirit marking you. That holy discomfort was never a defect, it was evidence. Evidence that you don't belong to systems, you belong to movements. Evidence that you don't follow the crowd, you lead the remnant. Evidence that you weren't called to fit in, you were called to break out. You were hidden so that you could emerge anointed, not performative. So that when the scroll broke open, you'd rise with oil, not trauma. It was never about popularity. It was about purity. That's why certain doors refused to open, no matter how hard you knocked. Because the doors were too small. The stages were too shallow. And your soul was too sacred. Even now, people wonder why you're still being quiet. Why you haven't forced your way into visibility like others. But what they don't know is this. You're not waiting for a stage. You're waiting for permission from heaven. You've learned that without divine release, visibility becomes vulnerability. Jesus himself waited until the appointed time. My time is not yet here. For you any time will do. He said in John 7. Luke, you've carried that same restraint. Because, chosen one, you've been marked by something eternal. You're not addicted to being seen. You're obsessed with being sent. And now, that time has come. You feel it. The pressure around you has shifted. The veil over your vision has lifted. You're no longer asking, "Why am I not there yet?" You're now asking, "Where do I go first?" That change in question is proof you've crossed over. But let's be honest, being hidden hurt. There were moments you felt forgotten, nights you cried from a place even you couldn't explain. The pain of invisibility wrapped itself around your faith like a noose. But every tear you cried in hiding watered the future you're about to walk into. You weren't buried. You were planted. And now, what was hidden is rising. As Paul reminds us in Colossians 3:4, "For you died, and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory." Your hiddenness was holy, and now your revealing will be glorious. There is no bitterness in your emergence, only reverence. You don't rise with vengeance. You rise with vision. You don't come out swinging. You come out sealed. This is not your comeback. This is your commissioning. And if you feel this in your spirit, if something deep within you is vibrating like heaven itself just cracked open over your life, then mark it. Make it tangible. Type in the comments. 777. 7 is the number of divine completion. 3 sevens seals it with heaven's rhythm. 777 is not just a number, it's a sign. A sign that you're aligned. A sign that the scroll has found its carrier. A sign that what was hidden is about to be revealed. Don't hesitate. Don't question if this is for you. If you're still reading, it already is. You've been hidden, not to be diminished, but to be revealed at the moment of greatest glory. And the moment is now. Hell took notice when you didn't die. There are moments in your life that hell hoped would end you. Moments so dark, so heavy, so agonizing. The enemy whispered, "This is it. This is where they'll break." But you didn't. You endured. And that endurance made you a threat. There is no greater alarm in hell than a wounded warrior who still worships. Because when you should have lost your mind, you found your praise. When you should have given up, you held your ground. When everything said quit, something deeper inside whispered, "Stand." That something was not willpower. It was the remnant of the divine, inside of you, the mark, the fire, the seal. It is one thing to carry an anointing. It's another to survive for it. You have survived things that no one knows about. Some storms hit so silently that no one saw the shipwrecks behind your smile. You walked through the valley with no applause, no comfort, no blueprint. And yet here you are, still breathing, still standing, still marked. It's not because the warfare wasn't violent. It's because your calling was greater than the attack. As we read in Isaiah 43, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze." You didn't survive because you were lucky. You survived because you were watched. Heaven never left your side. Even when you thought the silence meant abandonment, the angels were still dispatched. The hand of God was still covering you. Even when you were questioning everything, hell expected your silence. It wasn't ready for your resurrection. And that resurrection is not just a spiritual metaphor, it's literal. There are parts of you that died in the fight, your trust, your innocence, your hope. But each time something died, heaven planted something deeper. In the death of your naivety, God planted discernment. In the death of your expectations, He planted revelation. In the death of your comfort, He planted calling. You are not who you were before the storm. You are more dangerous, more refined, more surrendered. It was declared in Romans 8. Sanchitsi. No. In all these things we are more than conquerors through Him who loved us. You didn't just survive. You conquered. Hell didn't expect you to come out of the fire with clarity, with new vision, with holy authority. The trauma that should have disfigured you only revealed what was indestructible inside of you. That's why you walk differently now. That's why you speak with a weight that others can't mimic. Because there's a glory that only survivors carry. The enemy saw the threat before you did. That's why your childhood was attacked. That's why relationships were weaponized. That's why betrayal came from the people closest to you. It wasn't personal. It was strategic. If the enemy could get to your identity before your destiny, he could delay the scroll from opening, but every attempt failed. You've been through breakdowns that should have broken you permanently. And yet, in the ruins, you found resilience. You've walked through betrayal so sharp it nearly paralyzed you. And yet now you walk with wisdom in every step. There is nothing wasted. The scars you carry are not disqualifications, they are credentials. Every time you refused to curse God in your confusion, you built an altar in heaven. Every night you cried, but still got up the next day. A stone was added to your legacy. Hell wanted you numb, but you came out sensitive to heaven. Hell wanted you bitter, but you came out burning. Hell wanted you finished, but you came out filled. Paul reminds us in 2 Corinthians 4, 8, 9. We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed. And you, chosen one, are living proof of that verse. You are the testimony walking. You are the proof that God still raises the crushed, that He still calls the broken, that He still crowns the wounded. The hell you went through didn't just toughen you, it transformed you. It gave you eyes that see through spiritual masks. It gave you a heart that bleeds with compassion. It gave you a posture of humility only pain can teach. The authority you carry now wasn't downloaded in a moment. It was earned in the trenches, in the lonely nights, in the silent suffering. And heaven trusted you enough to let you endure what others would have abandoned. That's why when people ask you how you're still standing, they can't comprehend the cost. You don't even try to explain anymore, because it's not something that can be told. It must be survived. And the moment you chose to keep walking despite the exhaustion, the confusion, the silence, heaven took note. That's when your scroll began to glow. That's when the seal began to loosen. Because the survivor has become the sent one. The wounded has become the weapon. You were never just a vessel. You are a vault, holding revelations forged in the fire. Chosen one, never forget this truth. Every attack on your life was a confirmation of your assignment. If you were useless, hell would have ignored you. If you were average, the enemy would have let you drift. But because you were marked, hell launched war. And yet you won. You're still here. And now, the sound of your rising is shaking the realm that tried to silence you. The seal is broken, and the survivor is now the scroll bearer, called out of the crowd. There was never a moment when you were meant to blend in, never a season where heaven intended you to fit comfortably in environments that were too small for your assignment. You've always been different, not just in personality, but in purpose. Even when you tried to bury your uniqueness, the call kept rising to the surface. You could laugh, dress, and talk like everyone else, but something in your presence always stood out. That something is the mark. You were marked to disrupt what others merely observed, marked to carry answers, not just opinions, marked to carry presence, not just charisma. And because of that, you've always felt a little too much for some people, a little too deep, a little too intense, a little too spiritually tuned. But chosen one, what they called too much, was really too chosen. God has a pattern. He never picks from the center, he chooses from the edge. David was in the field. Moses was in the desert. Esther was an orphan. And you were set apart in ways no one could explain. You didn't ask for it. You just carried it. That weight, that clarity, that pull toward things unseen. You were called while others were comfortable. You were burdened while others were distracted. You were praying while others were playing. Because you were called out of the crowd, there's a holiness to your isolation, a divine purpose in the way you never quite connected with what came easily to others. Even now, God is pulling you into deeper waters, separating you not out of punishment, but out of preparation. It is written in Matthew 22:6, "For many are called, but few are chosen. And you, beloved, are among the few." That's why your life never looked like the majority, because your destiny doesn't come from majority rule. It comes from heaven's decree. You've been trained in obscurity, developed in rejection, and refined in silence. And now, the hour has come for you to be revealed, not for your own fame, but for God's glory. The world isn't looking for influencers. It's crying out for intercessors, for oil bearers, for fire starters, for the ones who are called out of the crowd. The heavens are aligning to your name right now. Your scroll is not only open, it's being read aloud in the spirit realm. This is not just a new season. This is a new dimension, a place where the favor of God will do what striving never could. A place where you no longer need to knock on doors, because doors will open when you arrive. That's the weight of being chosen. It's not about titles or stages, it's about spiritual function. When God marks you, He doesn't just give you an audience. He gives you authority. That's why you've felt the shift, the stretching, the push to separate. Because heaven never calls you out of the crowd without also calling you into assignment. You're not just called to walk differently. You're called to speak differently, to move differently, to believe differently. You've been trusted with insight others don't carry, trusted with discernment others ignore, trusted with pain that birthed power. And now, the earth is groaning for the revealing of the sons and daughters of God, the remnant, the sealed ones, the marked. You feel that pull, don't you? You're not just looking for a sign, you are the sign. And when that truth sinks in, when you realize that heaven has branded your soul for this hour, you begin to walk differently. You begin to speak with fire, to move with precision, and to release words that carry weight. It was declared in Jeremiah 1, "Woo, before I formed you, in the womb I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." That's the kind of calling you carry. Not the convenient kind, the consecrated kind. You were set apart long before you knew what the cost would be. And now, heaven is cashing in on the investment. But let me speak to your heart for a moment. This call isn't always easy. It can be lonely. It can feel thankless. It can demand more from you than you think you have to give. That's why we're building this space, this voice, this altar, because the called out ones need community too. So if this word is stirring your spirit, if you know deep down you were made for more than crowd following, then stay connected. Subscribe, not just because it helps the channel grow, but because it keeps you tied to the river flowing here. There are more scrolls to be revealed, more words to be spoken, more fires to be lit. And if this message blessed you deeply, consider supporting this movement. Even your smallest seed becomes fuel for the fire we're tending here, spreading prophetic truth to the hidden ones around the world. Your gift isn't to a person, it's to the purpose. And if someone came to mind while reading this, someone who's been wandering, doubting, forgetting who they are, share this with them. Let this be the moment their spirit awakens. Let this word reach the next David in the field. Because the crowd is loud, but the called ones, they carry the sound of eternity. It has begun. This isn't coincidence. This is convergence. You are not stumbling into this message. You are being summoned. Your spirit has been vibrating under the surface for months, maybe even years. You've felt something rising, a pressure, a pull, a holy agitation. And now, the heavens are confirming what your soul already suspected. The seal is broken. Your scroll has been handed down. Your time has begun. This isn't just another inspirational moment. This is divine activation. The kind of moment where time bends, where destiny sharpens, where purpose snaps into alignment. You're not being motivated, you're being moved. Something deep inside you has been crying out. There must be more. And now, the more has arrived. Not in the form of applause, not in the form of platform, but in the form of fire. Heaven doesn't send blessings first, it sends burning. Because the ones who will carry glory must be purified first. That's why your life has felt like constant pruning. Because you're not being punished, you're being prepared. As we read in Malachi 3, San, he will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He will purify the Levites and refine them like gold and silver. You are not random. You are refined, not ordinary, but ordered, not late, but launched. Every season where you questioned your pace, every prayer that seemed unanswered, every moment where your obedience felt like it cost too much, it was all leading here. You were never behind. You were becoming. The breaking of the seal is heaven's loudest yes. Yes to your calling. Yes to your survival. Yes to your surrender. And now, chosen one, the atmosphere is shifting around you. You'll begin to notice it in small things. The way certain people can no longer access you. The way old habits begin to feel foreign. The way your spiritual hunger becomes unignorable. That's the evidence. You are not waiting for revival. You are revival. You're not waiting for someone to hand you permission. Heaven already gave it. The fire in you isn't looking for validation. It's looking for release. And now that you've stepped into your scroll, passivity will no longer be possible. Because obedience isn't optional when the seal has broken. And you who were born for this, must now move with power. Heaven has opened something through you. The broken seal has unleashed revelation, clarity, alignment, and urgency. And the urgency isn't pressure, it's purity. It's what keeps you praying when others sleep, fasting when others feast, weeping when others wander. You are in sync with the Spirit. And when you are in sync, you don't have to chase timing. You walk in it. Paul reminds us in Ephesians 5:15, 16, Be very careful. Then, how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. This is your opportunity, not for performance, but for possession. Possessing what has always been promised. Possessing the land of your spiritual inheritance. Possessing the courage to be who you were before life tried to shrink you. Don't underestimate the weight of this moment. The seal isn't just broken for you, it's broken through you. Your yes is creating ripple effects. In your family, in your city, in the spirit realm. Every time you choose obedience over fear, heaven responds. The fire on your life is not for you to hoard. It's for you to carry through dry places, through dark systems, through generational curses and lifeless religion. You are not just marked, you are sent. And if your spirit knows this was for you, mark this moment in the comments. Type 777. Let the number be your yes. Let it be your alignment. Let it be your obedience made visible. The scroll was always yours. You didn't stumble into your calling. You didn't accidentally wander into purpose. Long before you knew what warfare was. Long before you ever said yes. Long before the tears, the trials, and the trembling prayers, your scroll was already sealed with your name. Heaven wrote you into the narrative, not as background, not as filler, but as a central figure in the unfolding of divine intention on earth. You are not here to exist. You are here to execute. Your assignment is not improvised. It is inscribed. Before your first heartbreak, your destiny was drafted. Before your first rejection, your purpose was preserved. Every twist, every delay, every detour, it all bends back to what was already written. It was declared in Psalm 139. Shalil, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. There is a book, there is a scroll, and there is a name, yours. And now, the moment has come when heaven no longer keeps the scroll sealed, because what was once hidden is now being summoned. You were not created for random impact. You were created for revelation. And now that the seal is broken, the revelation is no longer a mystery. It is becoming manifestation. But here's what the enemy never wanted you to discover. You are not just a reader of prophecy, you are a fulfiller of it. That ache in your spirit, that burning in your chest when you hear the sound of truth, that holy unrest when you see injustice, complacency, or counterfeit power, those are signs, evidence that the scroll is not only open, but that you are aligned to carry it out. And it terrifies the kingdom of darkness, because you are no longer asking for a seat at tables you were called to overturn. You are no longer praying for peace in systems that heaven has declared war on. You are no longer compromising your oil to be tolerated by people who are blind to glory. You know now that the scroll was never meant to be explained to everyone. It was meant to be lived. You are stepping into days that were written before the world had a name. That's why you've always been different. Why you've always felt out of place in shallow conversations. Why normal never satisfied you. Why compromise tasted like gravel in your mouth. Because your name echoes in eternity. And now, the echo has met the moment. As John described in Revelation 10:8-9. Then the voice that I had heard from heaven spoke to me once more. Go, take the scroll that lies open in the hand of the angel. So I went and asked him to give me the little scroll. He said to me, take it and eat it. This is your scroll eating moment. This is when what was written becomes part of you. Not separate, not theoretical, embodied. The time for analysis is over. The time for action has arrived. You are not just carrying revelation, you are becoming it. There will be days ahead when you will feel the weight of that scroll burning in your bones. Days when silence will feel like disobedience. Days when you won't be able to rest until you release the word, write the blueprint, confront the system, or call the remnant. That's not instability. That's alignment. The scroll awakens responsibility. It demands movement. It stirs urgency. It ignites fire. And it costs. Because when you walk in the fulfillment of your scroll, not everyone will recognize it. They'll ask for explanations that heaven hasn't given you permission to share. They'll want to tame the roar in your chest, shrink your stride, quiet your thunder. But you cannot apologize for what you were born to activate. There is no returning to the version of you who waited for approval. The seal broke that version. The scroll rewrote your pace. You no longer belong to the timeline of man. You move on the rhythm of the Spirit now. And with that shift comes separation. You'll lose people. You'll lose comfort. You'll even lose older versions of yourself. But what you gain: fire, clarity, covenant, divine momentum, and the knowing deep, unshakable knowing that you were born for this. You'll wake up differently, pray differently, walk into rooms with authority, not apology, because you're not wandering anymore. You're walking out your scroll. There will be signs everywhere, not in dramatic explosions but in subtle shifts. Divine appointments, unexplainable clarity, open doors that don't match your resume, access granted where protocol says no. You'll speak things that come to pass. You'll write things that break chains. You'll dream things that awaken people from spiritual slumber. And you'll know, this is not performance. This is prophecy in motion. Heaven is watching, not to judge, but to confirm, to echo every obedient step with supernatural backing, to assign angels to every risk taken in faith, to shield every move that aligns with the scroll. And even when fear creeps in, you'll remember, the scroll was always yours. You are not being invited into something fragile. You are stepping into something finished. The assignment isn't being built around your ability. It was written around your identity. And now, the seal is open. The ink is alive. The time is now. The scroll was always yours. And now, the world will see what happens when a chosen one finally says, yes. When mercy delays, judgment speaks. There comes a moment in every chosen life when grace no longer extends to comfort rebellion, when the hand of mercy, once soft and patient, begins to shift its posture, not in cruelty, but in consequence. You may not recognize it at first. It starts with a heaviness, then a silence, then a divine pressure that no longer lets you ignore what you've been postponing. That's where many chosen ones find themselves right now. Not in rebellion, but in resistance. Not in sin, but in stalling, caught between what you know you're called to do and what feels safe, sustainable, or socially acceptable. But when the scroll opens, delay becomes defiance. Every moment you hesitate is a moment the enemy tries to fill. This is not about fear of punishment. This is about urgency of purpose. When heaven calls your name, there is a window. Not because God is impatient, but because eternity doesn't wait for human comfort. The scroll is timed. The earth is groaning. And every time a chosen one hesitates, something sacred goes unreleased. The longer you delay, the more distortion tries to step in. The enemy is not always trying to stop you with sin. Sometimes he slows you down with distractions, with over-analysis, with maybe later, with false responsibility, with opinions. And over time, you're no longer running from God, but you're no longer running toward Him either. You are standing still with a full scroll. And that stillness, in a season of instruction, is dangerous. Paul writes in Hebrews 10:26-27, "If we deliberately keep on sinning after we have received the knowledge of the truth, no sacrifice for sins is left, but only a fearful expectation of judgment." That's a hard word, but it's a holy one, because conviction is not condemnation. It's compassion. It's God saying, "I love you too much to let you waste this fire." The seal is broken, and heaven will not accommodate passivity any longer. There is a world depending on your obedience, a region attached to your yes, a generation leaning into your voice, not just what you say, but how you live. You are not responsible for everything, but you are responsible for what you were handed. And now that the scroll is open, mercy doesn't vanish, but it changes form. It becomes weight, the holy weight of accountability, not to make you afraid, but to make you alert. Because you don't get to carry this fire without consequence. It's not just the glory that follows you, it's also the expectation. The moment heaven hands you keys, the door must be opened, or the responsibility falls not on those who blocked it, but on the one who refused to turn the lock. This is why the hidden ones, the remnant, are feeling pressure like never before. It's not warfare. It's not emotional exhaustion. It's spiritual urgency. And when you mistake urgency for oppression, you'll seek relief instead of revelation. The weight is not punishment, it's placement. You are being positioned to release something time-sensitive in the earth. Every day you withhold your obedience, something remains unbirthed. Someone stays in bondage. Some chain goes unbroken. Because when you're chosen, your yes is never just about you. It's always about who you unlock. That's why heaven feels so relentless right now. Why every time you try to settle, you feel friction? Why every time you compromise, your peace leaves? Why every time you try to shrink, something divine stretches you? Heaven is not giving you space to disobey in peace, because the scroll is not a suggestion, it's an assignment. It doesn't bend to your comfort. It demands your alignment, and alignment always costs something. Pride, comfort, options, applause. And when you delay, God doesn't strike you. He simply steps back. It's written in Romans 1:8. Furthermore, just as they did not think it worthwhile to retain the knowledge of God, so God gave them over to a depraved mind. That's the scariest form of judgment. When God stops pressing, when the weight lifts, and you think you're free, but what you're really feeling is heaven going quiet. Let that never be your story. You may be tired, conflicted, even confused, but you are still sensitive. You can still hear. You can still weep in His presence. That means mercy is still reaching. That means the scroll is still open. Do not waste this window. The greatest loss for the chosen one is not failure, it's familiarity. When you become so familiar with the presence of God that you no longer tremble, when you know what He's saying. But keep choosing what's easier. When you've learned how to look obedient without being obedient, that is the path that leads from fire to ashes. But that's not your path. You're not just chosen. You're marked. And with that mark comes responsibility. Not to be perfect, but to be responsive. When God speaks, you move. When He stretches, you surrender. When he corrects, you repent, quickly, without condition, without excuses. This is your moment of clarity. The window is open. The scroll is in your hands. Mercy is reaching, but it will not hover forever. Heaven is ready. The earth is waiting, and your scroll cannot be delayed any longer. No more postponing the call. No more spiritual snooze buttons. No more asking for confirmation after confirmation. The time for trembling has come to an end. Now is the time for movement. When mercy delays, judgment speaks. And when judgment speaks to the chosen, it sounds like this. Move. Now, the spirit realm recognizes you. You may walk through this world unnoticed. You may be overlooked by the systems of men, bypassed by platforms, uninvited to circles, but in the unseen realm, your arrival is announced. When you rise in the morning, heaven acknowledges your breath. When you speak truth, angels align with your words. And when you pray, all of hell adjusts its strategy. You are not invisible. You are identified. The spirit realm knows your name. Because you are sealed. Because you are marked. There is an imprint on your life that cannot be replicated. A glow in the spirit that exposes darkness. You carry something more than gifting, you carry authorization. And that terrifies the enemy. It was declared in Acts 19, Shiwu. But the evil spirit answered them, Jesus, I know. And Paul, I recognize. But who are you? And of hell knows names. Hell knows ranks. Hell knows weight. And yours carries weight. That's why the warfare didn't wait until you were successful. It started when you were still discovering who you were. That's why the resistance came so young, so violent, so deeply personal. Because the enemy wasn't responding to your circumstances, he was reacting to your spiritual identity. There are demonic systems that have tracked your bloodline for generations, waiting, watching, planning to stop the emergence of someone like you. Because when someone like you rises, cycles break. Strongholds crumble. Territories shift. You are not casual. You are catalytic. You carry keys that others don't. Authority that others avoid. Light that others fear. That's why you feel spiritual tension in places that seem peaceful. Because your presence exposes what's hiding. You don't blend in. You provoke exposure just by being there. And some of you have mistaken that reaction as rejection. You've asked, why don't they like me? Why do people withdraw when I show up? Why do atmospheres shift when I walk in? Because they don't see you. They sense you. And what they sense disturbs darkness. You've been trying to carry your calling politely, quietly, safely. But glory was never meant to be concealed. It was meant to confront, and the longer you dim your shine to be digestible, the more frustrated you become. Because the scroll within you is not satisfied with silence. There are things heaven wants to release through your voice, through your feet, through your tears, through your hands. And the spirit realm is already aware of it. Now it's time for you to be. You don't have to introduce yourself in spiritual realms. Your obedience already has. Your intercession already has. Your purity already has. You may be quiet in the natural, but you are loud in the spirit. Demons don't respond to charisma. They respond to consecration. And that's what you carry, consecrated authority. The kind that doesn't need microphones or titles. The kind that shifts bloodlines. The kind that breaks ancestral chains just by standing in agreement with truth. As Jesus declared in Luke 10, Shizyo, I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you. You don't just have authority, you've been given it, which means you're not working toward it. You're walking from it. But authority unused is authority wasted. You cannot keep sitting in rooms where you are spiritually starving just to maintain physical comfort. You cannot keep quiet when your silence enables deception. You cannot keep minimizing your presence to protect other people's preferences. You were never built for camouflage. You were built for clarity. The spirit realm has already confirmed your identity. Now, it's time to agree with heaven. Because when you do, everything around you shifts. The same people who dismissed you will feel convicted just standing near you. The same atmosphere that oppressed you will now flee from you. The same warfare that once intimidated you will bow under the weight of your yes. You are more than chosen. You are recognized. The enemy knows it. Angels know it. Now say it. Say it not with arrogance, but with holy awareness. Say it not to exalt yourself, but to activate the scroll within you. Say it because heaven is watching to see who will rise boldly in this hour, fully aware of the fire they carry. In the comments, declare, I am known. Let that be your response to every lie that told you you were invisible. Let that be your declaration in the face of spiritual resistance. Let that be your covenant with heaven, that you will not shrink from the weight you carry. I am known. The fire finds the faithful. There are many who crave the fire of God, but only a few who are willing to endure what it takes to carry it. Because fire doesn't fall on the flashy, it falls on the faithful. The ones who kept praying when no one noticed. The ones who stayed pure when no one applauded. The ones who said yes in private, long before they were ever seen in public. That's you, isn't it? You've endured silence, drought, testing, and tearing. Not because you were being punished, but because you were being prepared. Fire doesn't rest on what's convenient. It rests on what has been cleansed. Heaven never forgot about you. God wasn't ignoring you. He was watching. And now, the fire is coming not to destroy you, but to distinguish you. As we read in Zechariah 13, Jew, I will refine them like silver and test them like gold. They will call on my name and I will answer them. Refining is never easy, but it is always holy, and it always precedes glory. You've walked through seasons that scorched everything around you, where people left, where doors closed, where identity was questioned. But what the enemy meant to burn you, God used to brand you. The flames didn't consume you, they confirmed you. You are fireproof, not because of your strength, but because of His seal. The world doesn't recognize this kind of fire. It can't be manufactured. It can't be manipulated. It can't be monetized. It's the fire that falls on faithfulness, on hidden altars, on quiet sacrifice, on the sleepless nights when you cried, but still believed. This is your reward. Not comfort, but combustion. You're about to burn with a glory that shakes atmospheres, a clarity that silences confusion, a hunger that makes religious systems nervous, a joy that makes depression back down, a conviction that won't let you live halfway anymore. You are no longer trying to survive. You are stepping into your supernatural function. And it's not based on how many people follow you. It's not about who likes or validates you. The fire doesn't need applause, it simply needs an altar. And your life has become that altar. You have surrendered. You have waited. You have obeyed. And now, fire will fall. But don't expect everyone to understand it. Fire makes people uncomfortable. It exposes what is dead. It consumes what is unholy. It ignites what has grown cold. Some will love you for it. Others will resent you for it. But you must burn anyway. This fire isn't about being noticed. It's about being effective. You didn't go through everything you've faced just to return to average. You carry something now, something weighty, something eternal. So guard the fire, tend to it. Let the Holy Spirit breathe on it daily. You've been trusted with this for a reason. Paul reminds us in 2 Timothy 1, Luke, fan into flame the gift of God, which is in you through the laying on of hands. This fire is not a spark, it is an assignment. You've been lit to ignite others, to awaken the sleepers, to confront compromise, to break cycles, to birth movements. You are not called to manage the flame, you are called to release it. Let it spread. Let it touch your family, your city, your generation. Let it consume pride, fear, and every excuse that's tried to delay you. The fire knows your name. It found you because heaven knows you'll carry it with reverence. And now, you cannot go back to the version of yourself that lived cold. So many others are still waiting for this fire to reach them, and they won't find it in empty routines. They'll find it through you, through the message you carry, through the oil on your voice, through the light you walk in. That's why spaces like this matter. That's why this channel isn't just content, it's a conduit, a flow of prophetic fuel for the faithful. If this word has stirred something inside of you, stay connected. Subscribe so you don't miss the next flame, the next scroll, the next divine interruption that pushes you deeper into purpose. If this fire has reached you today, share it. There's someone in your life right now who's on the verge of burnout, someone who needs to remember they're not forgotten, someone who needs to be reignited. Don't underestimate the ripple of one shared word. One shared spark can awaken another scroll. And if you feel led to sow, do it not out of pressure, but out of alignment. Every seed fuels this movement. Every gift builds this altar higher. Every offering makes room for another soul to catch flame. You're not just supporting a platform, you're partnering with a prophetic mandate. But whether you sow or scroll, remember this, above all, you didn't choose this fire. This fire chose you. Now, let it burn. What you lost was an offering. There's a reason it hurt so deeply. There's a reason it cost so much. That relationship, that opportunity, that season you thought would last longer than it did. The people who walked away, the dreams that died silently in your hands, the prayers that were met with closed doors instead of miracles. It wasn't random. It wasn't cruel. It was sacred. You didn't just lose something. You gave something. Heaven saw it not as subtraction, but as surrender, not as tragedy, but as testimony. And what left your life didn't leave unnoticed. It went up like smoke on the altar, and God received it. We forget sometimes that fire doesn't fall on nothing, it falls on sacrifice. And you, chosen one, have offered much. Your tears, your trust, your timeline, your reputation, your control. Each time you laid something down voluntarily or through divine force, you were not being emptied for the sake of lack. You were being cleared for glory. It was written in Psalm 56. You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book. Heaven is not ignoring the pain. It has been documented, and not as weakness, but as witness. You didn't walk away from those things because you had no other choice. You walked away because obedience was louder than the desire to stay. And that obedience became your offering. Even the things you didn't want to let go, He turned them into holy gifts when you released them. Even the doors that slammed in your face, He used them as evidence that you were never meant to settle there. You didn't just survive loss. You worshipped through it. You still prayed. You still trusted. You still waited even when everything in you screamed to grab control again. And that surrender is why heaven is now moving in your direction. Because loss, in the hands of the chosen, becomes livrage. You carry a depth now that cannot be mimicked. You walk with a wisdom birthed in loss that no textbook could teach. You have an edge to your discernment that only suffering can sculpt. And that's not by accident. That's the residue of holy exchange. You gave Him ashes. He's giving you beauty. You offered Him mourning. He's clothing you in praise. You handed over the spirit of despair. He's releasing a garment of glory. As Isaiah 61:3 declares, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. That's the great reversal. That's what the scroll contains for you. Not just instruction, but restoration. Not just obedience, but overflow. And you are stepping into a time where what you lost will become the foundation for what you're now entrusted to carry. The very things that broke you are the reasons others will be healed. Because there's nothing more dangerous than a chosen one who has made peace with what was taken and still chooses to bless the name of the Lord. You've been crushed. Yes, but that crushing made oil. You've been stripped. Yes, but that stripping made room. You've been weeping. Yes, but that weeping watered something sacred. Don't ever confuse the silence of God with the absence of impact. What you lost was not the end of your story. It was the proof that your story carries eternal weight. You've buried things in the dark, only to discover they were seeds. And now, the sprouting will begin, not as a replacement for what left, but as a resurrection from what you laid down. And here's the secret. The enemy hoped you'd never learn. The more you lose, the more you're trusted, the more you release, the more heaven can fill. The pain was real, but so was the purification. The grief was heavy, but so is the glory that's coming. You gave it all, sometimes in fear, sometimes in trembling, sometimes in trust you didn't feel, but you gave it. And heaven received it as an offering. Your obedience was not invisible, it was incense. And in due time, the incense rises. The bowls in heaven tilt, and the God who saw it all says, "Now, it's time, not to repay, but to reveal, to show you why it had to go, to show you what He was preparing behind the pain, to show you that nothing was wasted." You'll look back soon, and what once felt like devastation will be redefined as divine transaction. What you called loss, God will call legacy, because what you lost was never just gone. It was given, and it was holy. That ending was prophetic. You thought it ended in failure. You thought the silence meant dismissal, that the exit was rejection, that the pain meant disqualification. But heaven was writing something far greater than your eyes could comprehend in the moment. What looked like collapse was completion. There are chapters in your life that ended abruptly: relationships, roles, seasons, dreams. They didn't die because you did something wrong. They ended because they were written to end. They served their purpose. The page turned by divine hand, not human mistake. As we read in Ecclesiastes 3, There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. That time ended. That chapter closed. And heaven is not asking you to reread what it already removed. Chosen one. You didn't fail. You fulfilled. That wilderness. Fulfilled. That heartbreak. Fulfilled. That friendship that dissolved without explanation. Fulfilled. The assignment you outgrew. Fulfilled. God never promised permanence in people or places. He promised purpose. And when the purpose of a season is complete, its closing becomes sacred. Even if it didn't come with closure, even if it didn't make sense at the time, the scroll knew what your heart didn't. And heaven didn't forget to notify you. It was testing your ability to walk forward without full understanding. Some of the hardest moments of your journey were actually alignments in disguise. When they left, it created space. When it ended, it made room. When it shattered, it exposed the foundation. And now that the dust has settled, you can begin to see. That ending wasn't punishment, it was preparation. The burial was a setup for a breakthrough. You've been trying to mourn something God has already turned into seed. Let it go. Let the final word be God's, not your emotions. Let the scroll narrate your next chapter, not the voices of disappointment. Isaiah 46:10 reminds us, I make known the end from the beginning, from ancient times, what is still to come. My purpose will stand, and I will do all that I please. He knew this ending was necessary, not to wound you, but to release you. You had to be cut from what was in order to be connected to what is. You had to walk through the silence to hear him in new ways. You had to survive the breaking to qualify for the building. You weren't being punished, you were being pivoted. And now, something in your spirit knows it. Even as you grieve, something holy is rising beneath the ache. A whisper that says, it had to happen like that. You are finally free to walk forward without resentment. You no longer need answers. You just need agreement. Agree with what God allowed. Agree with what he removed. Agree with what he severed. Because in your agreement, there is activation. This is not the time to look back. The scroll is calling your name forward. And everything ahead of you requires the version of you that is no longer attached to expired places. Let peace be your proof that it's time to move. Yes, it ended, but it ended prophetically. And if you feel the truth of this word resonating in your spirit, don't leave this moment unsealed. Mark it. In the comments, type 999. It's not just a number, it's your amen. Your signature in the spirit. Your release of what was, so you can run toward what is. Let 999 be your declaration. I release the old, I receive the new. An army awakens with you. You were never meant to rise alone. The breaking of your seal is not an isolated event. It is a signal. Your awakening is a trumpet in the spirit. A summons in the invisible realm that echoes into the hearts of others who have also been hidden, tested, and sealed. You may not realize it yet, but as you stand up, others begin to stir. As you speak truth, others find their voice. As you obey, others receive permission to move. Your obedience is contagious in the kingdom, because obedience is not only personal, it's prophetic. It sets precedent. It disrupts darkness and awakens dormant warriors. You're not just responding to your scroll, you're triggering the emergence of a remnant. That remnant has been waiting, scattered, wounded, silent. And they've been watching not just for signs and wonders, but for someone to go first. Someone to walk away from comfort and call it worship. Someone to walk into battle and call it birth. That someone is you, when you chose to rise, even trembling. The spiritual atmosphere around you shifted. Chains that were clinging to others began to shake. Patterns started breaking. Sleepers began to blink their eyes open, and what was once quiet groaning has begun to sound like a roar. God never raises a leader without igniting a lineage. This is what you've stepped into, a divine relay where your yes doesn't just finish your race. It hands off fire to the next. You may not know them by name. You may never meet them in person. But in the spirit, your awakening has sparked activation. You are not a lone candle. You are a match. The flame you carry will ignite thousands. Your fire may seem small, but fire doesn't need a crowd to start a movement. It just needs fuel. And your fuel has been pain, process, purging, prayer, all of it soaked in obedience, all of it ready to burn. As Paul wrote in Romans 8, "Shizyo, for the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed." You are not the only one creation is waiting on. You're one of many, and as you rise, the army begins to take shape. These are not warriors made in seminaries or studios. These are forged in wilderness, raised in the shadows, shaped by God Himself in caves of rejection, silence, and private surrender. And now they are stepping forward, marked, not polished, blazing, not branded. You've seen glimpses of them already. The ones who don't chase titles but carry truth. The ones who don't beg for platforms but command presence. The ones who don't advertise anointing but leak glory when they move. You may think you're the only one burning like this, but you're not. You may feel alone in your urgency, but you're not. You are part of the awakening, and it has begun. God has always moved through remnant. He doesn't need the masses. He needs the marked. And the ones who carry His weight will begin to find each other, not through trends, but through timing. You won't need to force the connection. The Spirit will align it. You'll hear someone speak, and your spirit will leap. You'll enter a room and recognize kindred fire. There will be no jealousy in this army, only honor. No competition, only confirmation. No hierarchy, only humility. Because everyone will know the cost, the suffering, the purification. There's no ego left in people who have been through the fire and didn't run. This army will not march with banners. It will move in silence, then strike with revelation. It will not beg for culture's approval. It will walk in heaven's authorization. It will not wait for permission. It will move when God speaks. And you are one of its forerunners. Every step you take from here on out matters, not because of pressure, but because of impact. What you do next is part of a divine domino effect. And when you say yes again tomorrow, someone else will hear the echo. They won't know why they suddenly have courage, why they suddenly can't sleep until they pray, why their old life suddenly feels foreign. It's because your movement just activated their scroll. There is a sacred weight in this realization that your life is now a trumpet, not to boast, but to beckon. You are sounding the alarm for the chosen to rise. This is what the enemy feared. Not just your obedience, but your influence. Not the influence of numbers, but the influence of fire. Because the fire spreads, and the more it spreads, the less power darkness holds. You will not see the full impact of your obedience in your lifetime, but in the spirit, there will be ripples without end. Cities shifted, families restored, generations rerouted, all because one person moved. That person is you. And now, others are waking. Let your obedience continue. Let your fire burn bright. Let your scroll remain open. Because this army doesn't need another influencer. It needs a carrier of glory. It needs you. You've gone first. And others are following. This is the last delay. You felt the tension. That holy unrest in your chest that won't let you settle. That stillness that doesn't feel like peace, but like waiting on the edge of something divine, something imminent. And now, heaven is confirming what your spirit already knows. The pause is over. No more waiting for perfect timing. No more praying to avoid what you're called to walk into. No more spiritual stalling under the name of discernment. The delay was mercy. The delay was protection. The delay was refinement. But now, the delay has lifted. This is the last moment heaven gives you to cross the line between readiness and resistance. You don't need more signs. You don't need another word. You don't need confirmation. You need movement. Because the scroll is open, the weight is present, and the clock has shifted from someday to now. Every moment you hesitate from this point forward, something holy is held back. The problem isn't that you're afraid. The problem is that you've gotten comfortable living in preparation but avoiding obedience. You've been preparing long enough. You've been studying, fasting, journaling, analyzing, comparing, waiting for the voice to thunder from the mountain again, when really, it's already whispering in the quiet corners of your spirit. Go. This is the moment to trust what you've been carrying. You are not stepping out unprepared. You are stepping out saturated with fire, with clarity, with heaven's backing. The time for spiritual procrastination is over. You're not missing anything. You've simply been delaying activation. Jesus said in John 9, "See, as long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming, when no one can work." You feel that, don't you? The sun is beginning to set on certain things, opportunities, relationships, windows that won't stay open forever. And your scroll isn't just calling you forward, it's pressing you into motion. Heaven won't force your hand, but it will withdraw its fire from hesitation. This is not to punish you. It's to preserve what must be accomplished in a short time. Because we are not in days of delay. We are in final moments. And chosen ones who've been purified by fire must now lead by example, not in words, but in obedient footsteps. The scroll wasn't unsealed to be admired. It was open to be fulfilled. And that fulfillment begins with one irrevocable choice. Yes. Now, God is not asking you to be fearless. He is asking you to be faithful in the face of fear. You may feel nervous, unqualified, exposed. But there's something far more dangerous than risking failure, missing your moment. There are certain moves that only carry fire when done in timing. Delayed obediences, disobedience, halfway surrender is still rebellion. And the longer you stay in the place of preparation after the scroll has opened, the more you begin to confuse comfort with calling. The truth is, you were never called to stay where it made sense. You were called to step where it scorches, to walk into the Jordan while the waters are still raging, to build the ark when no one's ever seen rain, to speak the word while your voice still trembles. This is the season where those who hesitate will be overtaken, not by judgment, but by irrelevance in the spirit. God loves you, but he is no longer waiting for you. Others are saying yes. Others are stepping out. Others are walking in fire and function. and you will either rise with them or watch them, not because they were better, but because they were quicker to obey. The time of divine delay has ended, and this final push is mercy. Mercy that sounds like urgency. Mercy that comes in the form of pressure. It's not the enemy pressing you, it's heaven. You don't need another encounter. You are the encounter. You don't need more clarity. You are the vessel of clarity. You don't need more favor. You are already favored to walk in what's written. And if you don't, someone else will. Not because they're stealing it, but because heaven's timeline will not wait for timidity. There is no more room for what if. There is only what now. The delay was grace, but grace now demands response. You will either move forward or miss what was made for your name. You've seen too much, heard too much, felt too much to remain in stillness. This is the last delay, and your scroll will not wait any longer. The crown carries weight. You've been called royalty. You've been told you're chosen, anointed, destined. But rarely are you told what it costs to wear the crown. Because while others see the glory, you feel the gravity, the spiritual pressure, the unseen resistance, the demand on your time, your thoughts, your purity, your obedience. Being chosen is not a compliment, it's a commission. And commissions carry weight. You weren't marked just to be admired. You were marked to be moved upon. To walk as one crowned not with pride, but with purpose. And purpose always presses. The crown sits not just on your head, but on your shoulders. And every time you hesitate, it reminds you that royalty comes with responsibility. Even Jesus, crowned with thorns before glory, showed us to reign spiritually means to bleed before you rise. You've been feeling that weight lately, haven't you? That quiet ache when you try to rest, and your spirit stirs instead. That sense that while others can coast, you must contend. That fire inside that won't let you numb yourself or go back to neutral. It's the crown pressing into your decisions, shaping your language, molding your movements. Because you're no longer allowed to live casually. You don't just represent your name. You represent the kingdom. It's written in 1 Peter 2, Jew. But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. You are royal. You are set apart. You are not common. And with that honor comes an invisible assignment. Heaven trusts you. That's why it feels so tight. That's why you can't get away with what others can. That's why when you drift, conviction hits faster. Because marked ones carry a heavier crown. But that crown is not a curse, it's your confirmation. It's why the warfare's been relentless. It's why attacks came early, even before your calling had language. Hell wasn't reacting to what you had. It was responding to what you were born to release. There are regions in the spirit that recognize your weight, territories that feel your movement, enemies that scatter at your obedience. You've been crowned for confrontation, not with people, but with principalities. And now, the pressure you feel is not punishment. It's placement. God is placing you in alignment, in position, in territory that matches your mantle. But alignment always requires adjustment. That's why he's refining your circle, elevating your discipline, correcting your rhythms. It's not legalism, it's leadership. You don't just carry a scroll, you carry a standard. And that standard costs you. But don't despise the price. Every surrender is producing glory. Every sacrifice is increasing oil. Every hidden act of obedience is preparing you to wear that crown publicly with weight and wisdom. David wasn't crowned when he looked ready. He was crowned when heaven said, "Now." And many around you may not understand why you're rising now. But heaven is not waiting for consensus. It's responding to character. Your character has qualified you. Your tears have watered you, and your trials have crowned you. So walk like it, not with arrogance, but with anointing. You've paid a price, but now you carry power, and people need to hear this. Others walking through the same pressure need to know they're not broken, they're being crowned. So, if this word struck something deep in you, don't keep it to yourself. Like this message, not for numbers, but so the algorithm pushes this fire to someone who's barely hanging on. Share it with the one who's still in hiding, still questioning their crown. Subscribe so this stream of prophetic fuel doesn't stop with one word. Stay connected to the flow. And yes, if you feel led, give. This altar wasn't built on noise. It was built on obedience. Every seed sown keeps the fire burning. Every offering creates space for more marked ones to be reached. You're not donating to a personality. You're partnering with a mandate. Let your giving be part of your crown bearing, because the crown isn't just about what you carry, it's about who you cover. Let your obedience go farther than your feet. Let your faith activate others. Let your fire catch fire in someone else's scroll. And if you're reading this with your heart beating a little faster, if your chest feels heavy and your eyes have welled up somewhere along this journey, if the Spirit is whispering, "This is you," don't brush past it. Comment below, "I hear you, Lord." Let it be your echo. Let it be your alignment. Let it be your yes in plain view. Because this crown you wear, it's not ceremonial. It's consecrated. And with it, you will go where others can't. Speak what others won't. Stand where others fall. Because the weight you carry is not your burden, it's your assignment. You've been crowned. Now walk like it. You will be recognized by glory. There is a moment coming when those who dismissed you, overlooked you, or misunderstood, your silence will no longer be able to deny what rests on your life. Not because you will shout louder or try harder to be seen, but because glory speaks louder than personality. You've never fit in because you weren't created to reflect this world. You were crafted to reflect another realm. And now, that realm is beginning to break through you. This is the hour when hidden ones are being revealed, not by marketing, not by manipulation, but by manifestation. The kind that cannot be ignored. The kind that makes others pause and whisper. There's something different about them. That difference is not branding. It's not charisma. It's not influence. It's glory. The unmistakable residue of having spent time in the presence of God. The scent of sanctification. The weight of obedience. The radiance of surrender. You've been forged in the fire so long. You've begun to glow without even knowing it. And now, the glow is growing. The more you walk in alignment, the more glory begins to rest on you. Not visit, rest. You will begin to notice it in the smallest of ways. People will look at you longer. Conversations will pause when you enter a room. Environments will shift. And you won't be able to explain why, except to say, "I've been with him." As it was written of Moses in Exodus 34. Arshajul. When Moses came down from Mount Sinai, his face was radiant because he had spoken with the Lord. That radiance wasn't taught, it was transferred. Glory leaves a mark. And now, heaven is placing that mark on you, not to make you famous, but to make you functional in the kingdom. Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs glory bearers. You've paid a price for this. Every rejection, every misunderstanding, every lonely night. The long wilderness seasons weren't just to humble you, they were to prepare you to carry what others collapse under. Glory is heavy, and it's not for the faint of heart. That's why the delay was necessary. That's why he kept you hidden. Because he wasn't just polishing your gift, he was fortifying your spine. Now, you walk with something in your eyes that can't be faked. A stillness, a knowing, a clarity that makes demons nervous and the hungry feel safe. You don't just speak truth. You embody it. That's glory. And glory will draw what gimmicks never could. People will come to you not knowing why. They'll say things like, "I feel peace around you," or "There's something about you." That's not your aura. That's not your personality. That's the Spirit of God resting on your life. And it will open doors that your resume never could. It will give you access to rooms you weren't trained for. It will break down barriers that others fought against for years. It will draw provision, strategy, partnership, favor. Because glory attracts heaven's resources, and it also attracts warfare. Because when glory rests on your life, you become a threat. Not because of what you do, but because of who you've become. That's why some people can't stand to be around you anymore. Not because you've changed, but because you've evolved. And their spirits can't reconcile your new dimension with their old expectation. Let them go. You weren't called to be accepted. You were called to be set apart. Not separated for elitism, but for effectiveness. And now, you will be recognized, not by likes or shares, but by light, the light that shines from obedience, the kind that doesn't need spotlight to be seen. You will no longer need to announce yourself. Glory will introduce you. Just as Jesus said in Matthew 5:14-16, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." The purpose of this recognition is never self-exaltation. It is kingdom revelation. People will be drawn to the light, and when they arrive, they won't just find you, they'll find him. The Christ revealed through a vessel that said yes, stayed low, and carried weight. Your assignment now is not to force the glory. It's to host it. Live pure. Stay surrendered. Walk with trembling obedience. And the glory will do what your striving never could. Because when the glory rests, it speaks. It speaks on your behalf. It speaks to the hearts of men. It speaks to the gates of hell. It speaks to the atmosphere around you. You will be recognized, not because you craved it, but because you carried it. The scroll is in your hands now. This is not a vision, not a prophecy still waiting to be fulfilled. This is the moment when what was once distant becomes tangible. What was once concealed becomes commissioned. The scroll that carried your name, your instruction, your weight, it's no longer sealed in the heavens. It's been placed in your hands, not metaphorically, not symbolically, spiritually real. You are holding divine instruction. What you do next will not be reaction, it will be execution. You are not wandering anymore. You are not waiting. You are not surviving. You are moving forward with mandate. Everything you need has already been written. The details, the timing, the authority, the backing, all of it has been prepared. And now, heaven is waiting on one thing: your movement. When Ezekiel received the scroll, it came with these words, "Son of man, eat this scroll I am giving you and fill your stomach with it." So I ate it, and it tasted as sweet as honey in my mouth. Ezekiel 3. San. The scroll wasn't meant to be admired. It was meant to be consumed, to become part of your being, to turn from revelation into action. You can't just carry it in your hand, it must be alive in your heart. You've carried prophecy for years. Now you carry responsibility, and that responsibility is not a burden, it is a privilege, the kind heaven gives only to the faithful, the proven, the ones who didn't run when the fire got hot. You are not being trusted with something small. You are being trusted with something eternal. Everything you've walked through, every heartbreak, every closed door, every delay was training for how to handle this scroll. You had to be refined so the ink wouldn't smudge in your hands. You had to be trusted with silence before you could be entrusted with speech. And now, the scroll is no longer distant. It is yours. You may not know every step ahead. You may not see the full picture. But that's not your job. Your job is obedience. Step by step. Word by word. Fire by fire. God does not need you to be flawless. He needs you to be faithful. You've waited for this for so long. Not for fame. Not for position. But for alignment. To finally feel the rhythm of heaven under your feet. To finally walk without the weight of wondering if you're late, or lost, or forgotten. You are none of those things. You are appointed. You are entrusted. You are activated. This scroll will not look like the plans you once wrote. It may not make sense to those around you. It may not be easy to explain, but you weren't called to explain. You were called to embody. The scroll itself will become your life. It will be heard in your voice, seen in your steps, felt in your fire. It will affect how you pray, how you plan, how you lead, how you listen. The Spirit will breathe through your movements now, not just your words. Because once the scroll is handed to you, heaven moves with you. Angels are assigned to this scroll. Provision is aligned with this scroll. Protection is guaranteed around this scroll. Favor follows those who carry function. You've carried potential long enough. Now you carry purpose. And purpose isn't always loud. Sometimes it's obscure. Sometimes it looks like tears behind closed doors and decisions that no one understands. But you'll feel it in your spirit, like the hum of eternity vibrating inside your chest. You are no longer asking, "God, what's next?" You are now hearing, "Son, daughter, go, build it, go write it, go say it, go become it." No more delay, no more shrinking. No more asking for permission from people who were never meant to steward your scroll. You are not too late. You are right on time. The fire has fallen. The seal is broken. The scroll is yours. Now rise. Carry it. Live it. And let all of heaven bear witness to what happens when a marked one says yes. Beloved chosen one, this may be the end of the script. But it is the beginning of your movement. The scroll has been opened. The fire has been stirred. The weight on your life is no longer dormant, it's active. You didn't just receive information, you received impartation. And now, your steps will carry a different rhythm. Your decisions will carry a deeper echo. Don't walk away from this unchanged. Let the confirmation settle. Let the clarity lock in. Let the fire burn. If this word pierced you, if it felt like heaven spoke directly to the depths of your soul, don't keep it to yourself. Someone in your life is still buried beneath doubt, delay, or deception, you may be the voice that God uses to call them forward. Share this message. Post it. Send it. Let it be a seed that unlocks another scroll. Make sure you're subscribed. These messages aren't just content, they are commissioned moments. What's coming next will not be surface level. It will be for the sealed, the surrendered, the ones hungry for heaven's rhythm. If that's you, stay connected. Don't miss what's about to unfold. If this word nourished your spirit, if it lit your inner fire, if it awakened something sacred, then respond as the Spirit leads. Not out of pressure, but out of prophetic alignment. Every act of generosity becomes part of the altar we're building together. You're not giving to a voice, you're co-laboring with a vision. You're not supporting a message, you're releasing oil that will reach the hidden, the broken, the marked ones, just like you. This is sacred space. What happened here today was real. So honor the fire, carry it forward, and never forget, the scroll is no longer sealed. Now, live it.